Oh, good. You're here, Jessica said, her smile as polished as the beige houses lining Maple Ridge Estates, gesturing casually at the concrete slab where my grandfather's cherished workshop once stood. We've taken care of that little eyesore while your grandfather was in surgery. She had no idea that she'd just walked directly into the legal snare I'd spent months preparing. For nearly half a year, I'd been documenting everything, installing hidden cameras, securing every permit, and working closely with an attorney. I knew that Jessica Caldwell, our HOA president with a thirst for control, would strike when we were at our most vulnerable. She didn't disappoint. Now it was time for her to pay for every splinter of my grandfather's legacy she had destroyed. My grandfather wasn't just any old woodworker. He was Samuel Green, a master craftsman whose work adorned museums, governors' mansions, and historic landmarks. His workshop wasn't merely a shed, it was a sanctuary where raw wood became art under his weathered, skillful hands. People drove from neighboring states, sometimes further, just to commission a piece from him. The cedar siding of the shop had aged beautifully, turning a dignified silver gray, and its tall windows allowed perfect streams of natural light to pour inside, falling onto custom workbenches lined with tools passed down through generations. Each chisel handle was polished from decades of use, every plane sharp enough to slice a sliver of wood so thin you could read a newspaper through it. But to Jessica, it was just an ugly building that clashed with her vision of sterile perfection. 3 months prior, she had slapped a glaring orange violation notice on the door, declaring the structure non-compliant and unsightly. She saw no value in craftsmanship, only an obstacle to her kingdom of conformity. I wasn't about to let her win. The battle began long before the workshop was torn down. Jessica's first formal complaint accused my grandfather of unauthorized industrial activity in a residential zone, citing vague reports of noise and claiming multiple neighbors had complained. Never mind that the workshop predated the HOA by over 2 decades. Never mind that Grandpa rarely used power tools, preferring the gentle precision of hand tools. Never mind that his unsightly structure was a feature in architectural journals. Grandpa, always patient, met her aggression with grace. He showed her the original permits from 1978, explained the historical significance of his work, and even invited her to see the custom commission he was completing for the State Historical Society. But I could see the worry in his eyes. "They've been trying to push out the old-timers for years," he told me one evening, as we sat together on his porch watching the sun dip behind the hills. "They want everything to look the same. No character. No history." And he wasn't wrong. Maple Ridge had been transformed, house by house, into a monotonous grid of beige boxes. Mature trees were removed for approved landscaping. Older residents found themselves squeezed out by rising HOA fees and arbitrary violations. When the second notice appeared, I knew it was time to fight back. I started attending every HOA meeting, keeping to the back row, quietly listening. And then one evening I caught them. Jessica, seated at the head of the table, leaned forward and, without a trace of shame, said, "The Green property continues to be problematic. That workshop violates multiple bylaws, and frankly, it's an eyesore, bringing down property values." Robert Lane, the head of the architectural committee, nodded eagerly. "We've issued 3 violations already without compliance. Maybe it's time for more direct measures." Jessica's eyes glinted. "The bylaws allow removal of non-compliant structures after multiple notices. And with Mr. Green being elderly, it might be easier to handle while he's out of the way." Their casual cruelty sparked a fire inside me. The next morning, I was sitting in the office of my grandfather's attorney, Alan Cooper. I played him the recording I'd secretly captured on my phone. "They can't actually do this, can they?" I asked, my hands clenched. Alan leaned back, frowning. "Technically? No. But HOA boards often assume homeowners won't know their rights. They bank on people being too intimidated to push back." Together, Alan and I built a rock-solid legal defense. We tracked down every piece of paperwork: the building permits issued in 1978, the business license Grandpa had renewed annually since 1980, and the home business exemption approved under county ordinance for legacy operations. We documented everything about the workshop, from its architectural significance to the historical value of the tools and projects inside. Alan sent a certified letter to the HOA board, warning them that any action taken against the structure would constitute willful property damage under county code. I installed a full security system, cameras covering every angle of the shop, backing up the footage to cloud storage. When Grandpa told me he needed Sergeria valve replacement, I felt the dread creep in. "It's nothing," he insisted with a smile. "I'll be back turning bowls before you know it." But as we packed up his current projects and carefully stored his tools the night before his operation, I saw the look in his eyes. He knew. He knew this was the moment they were waiting for. The hospital called at dawn. His surgery was moved up unexpectedly. I grabbed my bag and rushed to be with him, leaving the workshop secured but unattended. By the next morning, I returned home and my heart dropped. The towering oak that shaded the workshop was gone, felled carelessly, its stump raw and jagged. But worse was the emptiness where the workshop once stood. Nothing but a slab of concrete remained, surrounded by piles of debris and garbage bags stuffed with the shattered remains of my grandfather's life's work. A green notice taped to the door declared the demolition completed per HOA regulations. Below that, an invoice for $4,200 billed to my grandfather's HOA account for the cost of the teardown. I was still frozen in shock when I heard the click of heels behind me. Jessica Caldwell, clipboard in hand, her smile as fake as the laminate floors in her McMansion. "Oh good. You're here," she said sweetly. "We've removed the non-compliant structure. Here's a brochure with the approved designs for replacement." I stared at her, unable to speak. She pointed to the trash bags casually. "The demolition crew saved what they could, but I'm afraid most of it wasn't salvageable." I found my voice low and shaking. "You had no right." Jessica's smile faltered for the first time. Now, let's not get emotional. Your grandfather was given plenty of warnings. This is simply enforcing the rules." She turned to walk away, tossing a final barb over her shoulder, "And I'd remind you, shouting at a board member is a conduct violation." But I didn't shout. I didn't cry. Instead, I pulled out my phone and made the call I'd been preparing for months. Alan answered on the first ring. "They did it," I said. "They tore it down while he was in surgery." Alan's voice was calm. "Stay put. Take photos of everything. Don't let them touch another thing." "I'm on my way." I began documenting everything: the debris, the tools stuffed into garbage bags, the notice on the door. And then I called the police. "I'd like to report destruction of property and theft," I told the dispatcher. "And I have video evidence." The officers arrived just as the waste management truck pulled up, ready to haul away the wreckage. I showed the police the security footage, Jessica directing the demolition crew personally, pointing out where to start, giving orders while smiling. One of the officers, an older man with kind eyes, shook his head slowly. "I know your grandfather's work. My wife has one of his hope chests. The craftsmanship is amazing." The other officer began cataloging the debris as evidence. "We'll need a list of the destroyed items and their estimated value." Alan arrived shortly after, along with a court reporter and a county building inspector. Jessica returned just in time to see the patrol cars in the driveway. Her smile evaporated. "What's going on here?" she demanded. The officer's response was swift. "Jessica Caldwell, we're investigating the unauthorized demolition of a protected structure and destruction of private property." Alan handed over the certified letter, the business license, the home business exemption, the permits, all of it. "You were formally notified that this structure was protected under county law," Alan said. Jessica's bravado cracked. "The board approved it. This wasn't just me." But the footage told the truth. Jessica, alone, directing the demolition. No other board members present. The inspector flipped through the documentation and asked Jessica, "Did you verify whether the structure had protected status before ordering its demolition?" She stammered. The architectural committee said. "Did you personally verify?" he pressed. She couldn't answer. The police collected statements, and before the week was over, the demolition company, several board members, and Jessica herself were facing charges for property destruction, theft, and violations of county building ordinances. The legal battle that followed was swift and brutal. In the landmark case Green v. Maple Ridge Estates HOA, the court ruled decisively in our favor. The HOA was ordered to rebuild the workshop to its original specifications, replace all destroyed tools and materials, and pay damages exceeding $120,000. Jessica was removed from the board, fined personally, and barred from holding any leadership role in the community again. The workshop stands today even more beautiful than before, rebuilt with care. Grandpa still works there, teaching apprentices, sharing his craft. A bronze plaque by the door reads, Green Workshop Est. 1978. Rebuilt 2023. Protected historical site.